Have you ever really stopped to think about the story of you? Not just where you were born or what you do for a living, but the entire incredible journey of how you became the person you are right now? Well, that's what we're diving into today. We're talking about lifespan development, the amazing process of change that every single one of us goes through, from the very first spark of life all the way to the end. I mean, it really all comes down to this one single massive question, right? How in the world do we go from a single cell to a person who can think and love and build relationships and have a unique personality? The entire field of developmental psychology is basically trying to solve that beautiful, complicated mystery. Okay, so to make sure we're all starting from the same place, here's the official definition. Lifespan development is the pattern of change that begins at conception and continues through the life cycle. But the part you really got to hang on to here, the key, are those three processes: biological, cognitive, and social-emotional. Think of them as the engines that power our entire transformation. And here's the thing, these domains are all tangled up together. You can't separate them. Biological is all about your body, your physical growth, your motor skills, all that stuff. Cognitive is your mind, how you learn, how you talk, how you solve problems. And social-emotional, well, that's your heart. It's your relationships, your feelings, your sense of who you are. But none of this happens in its own little bubble. They are constantly influencing each other in this complex, beautiful, lifelong dance. So, to really get a grip on how we develop, we have to look at the great debates. These are the huge foundational questions that psychologists have been wrestling with for decades. And trust me, these aren't just for textbooks. They totally shape how we think about what it means to be human. Let's jump into the two biggest ones. First up, the all-time classic, nature versus nurture. I'm sure you've heard of it. Is who you are baked into your DNA, your genetic blueprint, or is it all about how you were raised, your environment, your family, your culture? For years, people fought for one side or the other. But you know what? We now know that's the wrong way to look at it. It's not versus at all. It's a constant conversation between the two. Think about it. Puberty is a biological nature thing, right? But its timing can actually be affected by things like nutrition and stress, which is all nurture. It's always both. All right, the second big debate is all about the shape of our journey. Is it a continuous, gradual process? Kind of like you're just smoothly walking up a ramp, getting a little smarter and a little more skilled every day. Or is it discontinuous? Is it more like climbing a set of stairs where you stay on one step for a while and then, boom, you suddenly jump to a whole new level of thinking and seeing the world? It's a really fundamental question about how change happens. Okay, so let's move away from the big, abstract debates and see how some of this actually plays out. And we're going to start in one of the most fascinating places imaginable, the mind of a child. Because here's one of the most important things we've ever learned in psychology. Kids do not think like tiny adults. Their reality is just fundamentally different. And the guy who really blew the doors off this idea was a Swiss psychologist named Jean Piaget. His core concept was totally revolutionary at the time. He said that kids are like little scientists. They aren't just empty vessels waiting for us to pour knowledge into them. No, they are actively out there, exploring and experimenting, and building their own understanding of how the world works, piece by piece. And he saw this happening in stages. So first, you've got the sensory motor stage. This is when a baby is learning about the world just by touching, tasting, and moving. Then they hit the pre-operational stage. Now they can use language, which is huge, but their thinking is super egocentric. They literally can't imagine a point of view other than their own. And then comes the concrete operational stage, where they can finally start to think logically about real, tangible things, and they can finally understand that just because you pour juice into a taller, skinnier glass, it doesn't mean there's suddenly more of it. All right, let's fast forward our journey. We're moving past early childhood and landing right in the middle of those turbulent, transformative, and absolutely crucial teenage years. The focus here makes a massive shift. It's not just about figuring out the world anymore. It's about figuring out your place in the world. It is the great search for identity. And to understand this part of the story, we've got to bring in another giant of the field, Erik Erikson. Now, if Piaget was all about how we think, Erikson was all about how we exist in our social world, our psychosocial development. His big idea was that our whole life is a series of social challenges. He called them crises, and the way we navigate each one helps build the person we become. For teenagers, the main event is the crisis of identity versus role confusion. Does that sound familiar? This is that time when you're trying on different hats, different personalities, different friend groups, just trying to figure out, who am I really? If you can figure that out and come out the other side with a solid sense of self, that's fidelity. But if you don't, you're left with role confusion, feeling kind of lost about your place in it all. Now, for a really long time, it seems like most of these theories were obsessed with childhood and the teenage years. It was almost as if you hit age 21 and that's it, you're done, your development is over. But the modern perspective has completely shattered that idea. The truth is, the journey never, ever ends. And this thought, which was summed up so well by psychologist Paul Baltus, just captures it perfectly. The potential to grow and change is with us for our entire lives. There's no rule that says you have to hit a plateau or start declining when you get older. I mean, how incredibly hopeful is that? It means learning, adapting, and becoming more of yourself is always on the table. So this modern perspective is really built on a few core truths. First, development is lifelong. It doesn't stop. Second, it's multidirectional, which just means at any age, you're gaining some abilities while maybe losing others. Third, it's plastic, which is a fancy word for changeable. You are not set in stone. And finally, it's contextual. We are shaped by our family, our culture, and the moment in history we happen to live in. So when you put it all together, the nature versus nurture debate, the big stage theories, this idea of a lifelong journey, you see that development really is just the ongoing story of you. It's a story of biology and experience, of sudden leaps and slow changes, of figuring out how the world works and who you are. And the most exciting part of all, that story is still being written. You're holding the pen. So, my question to you is, what's the next chapter?